Hey everyone! In this video, we're going to talk about some basics that you need to know to understand and solve ratio problems. Let's dive right in. We have a problem on the screen here. It says the ratio of girls to boys in a class is 3 to 2. If there are 30 students in the class, how many girls are there? So when we're taking a look at these ratio problems, one of the first things we need to do is understand how they're written. In a ratio problem, the way the ratio is written corresponds with the groups that they list. So in this case, because they mention girls first in this ratio, the girls corresponds to the 3. And boys, which was second, corresponds to the 2. The next piece of information that we need to know about is the total, which in this case is the total number of students. We can say that that is both girls and boys. So now that we have the key parts of our ratio identified and written out, we can begin to solve this. Another thing that students should be aware of when solving the ratios is what do the component parts add up to? So in this case, we have 3 girls and 2 boys, but that means that in this group, we have a total of 5 students, girls and boys. So this becomes important when we're trying to solve our ratio here, because then what this means is that when we want to solve our ratio, we are thinking in terms of these small groups of 5 students. So what does that look like? That means that every single possible number for the amount of students that we should have should be in some interval of 5. I could have 5 students, we could have 10 students, we could have, say, 50 students, but we cannot have a number that cannot be divided by the number 5. So we wouldn't be able to have a group of, say, 7 students or something like that. So every part of our ratio should be able to divide into the individual components. I should be able to divide this number 5 into the 30 students that we have. So let's go ahead and do that. If I were to divide 30 by 5, well, 5 doesn't go into 3, so I'm going to put a 0 there. And then 5 goes into 30 6 times. No remainder. So that I know then that the 30 students that I have is 6 times greater than the group that's represented in my ratio. So what does this mean for the ratio? Well, it means that every other number in that ratio should be multiplied by 6 in order to get the actual amount of boys or girls that I have, because 5 times 6 gave me the 30 students that I have in this particular example. So if I multiplied the 3 by 6, that gives me 18 girls. And if I multiply the 2 by 6, that gives me 12 boys. And one thing that we can do to double check this and make sure it's correct is just add up our amounts. Let's make sure that it actually accounts to the 30 students that was mentioned in the beginning of the problem. So 2 plus 8, 10, carry the 1, and 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. So that gives us our 30 students. So in this way, you can see that we have our different parts of our ratio. Each of those parts of the ratio adds up to create a group. And every single part of that ratio has to be some multiple between your actual numbers and your ratio numbers. We could do this for any particular part of our ratio. Let's take a look at another example. Let's say, for example, that we'll look at this ratio of 5 to 2. Let's say that this ratio represents red to blue. Okay, so following with the other example in the previous part, if 5 is red and 2 is blue, that adds up to a total of 7 in our group. So we're showing this part just to give you an idea of the different kind of numbers that we could be dealing with. So before I mentioned that everything must be either multiplied or divided together, kind of like in a fraction. So that means if the total from this group number here is 7, then my possible total numbers are 14, 21, 28, 35, and so on. So if we're looking at that, that is 7 times 1, 7 times 2, times 3, times 4, times 5, and so on. So the numbers that I could have for red then could be 10, 15, 20, and 25. And the numbers that I could have for blue could be 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. All in all, you could see that if we follow the numbers, each component matches up with both the ratio and the multiplier, and all the parts always add up to the total that we have here on the right. So 15 and 6 give us 21, 20 and 8 give us 28, 25 and 10 give us 35. But we could use this to figure out any part of our ratio, whether we are given two different parts of the same ratio, whether we're given a part and a whole of that ratio, or some other kind of configuration. So in this last example, we've been given a ratio here where there are two parts. So in a family, the ratio of parents to children is 1 to 2. If there are 12 children in the family, how many parents are there? So again, we can take a look at this and say that, again, if we have 1 and 2, the first number represents the parents because parents was mentioned first, and the second number represents the children because children was mentioned second. Second, they told us that we have 12 children in total. So how many parents are there? So if I'm trying to figure out how many parents there are, I need to figure out what the difference between my ratio and my actual numbers are. To go from 2 to 12, I need to multiply that number by 6. So in the same way, I should multiply parents by 6 as well, and that's going to give me 6 parents. Very easy. So I hope you found this video useful. There are a couple of more techniques and things that I'll mention in a follow-up video on proportions, but this is the basic information that you need to know to get started in understanding ratios. I'll do a couple more short videos in the future so that you can see how to work out specific problems when it comes to ratio, whether they're easy or hard. Stay tuned.